welcome everybody to what we really thought about 10 minutes ago we were going to have to cancel, the first of the Upstart Play is the Way book group plus sessions, which I have to admit I'm very excited about. Before I got into a state because Zoom wouldn't let me in, I'd been watching the parliamentary broadcast about the new review of education, and all sorts is going to start kicking off soon. Shirley Ann Somerville was talking this evening, but we're hoping that this evening will be an auspicious evening for play in Scotland, because there's something that I've got to explain and tell you about. So I'm going to try and share my screen. This is something that I have to admit I knew nothing about at all until about a fortnight ago, a bit more than a fortnight now. It's not the sort of subject that most people in Upstart are interested in. It's about a planning framework for Scotland, and it's been a long, hard struggle for me to work out exactly what it's all about. And in fact, I was dreadfully worried about trying to present something on it because it's so complicated. And then while I was trying to work out
You're muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it's muted. People keep coming in unmuted. I try to mute them, and the thing flips, and I accidentally.
Okay, well, I'll try and keep an eye and see that I'm
okay.
I'm unmuted.
Can you put yourself on slideshow?
I'm on slideshow. Can you see it?
We can see the bits down the side as well.
Can I see the bits down the side?
We can see PowerPoint desktop.
Yeah, I'm afraid I can't go on slideshow. That's what I have to talk to.
Fine.
Yeah, that's what I have to talk to Brett about. You'll all have to make do with plan B, which is this. Anyway, as I was trying to work out how to explain it, my daughter sent me this rather attractive picture of my granddaughter, who's 6 months old. And since the planning document that I'm going to talk about is supposed to be for the whole of the next 25 years, I realized that really it's her that it's all about. I mean, you know, what they start doing within the next year or so as a result of this draft document will apply very much to Maggie. So I've decided that Maggie would tell you all about it in her own words, and that would make it simpler. And basically, her simple words are her vision for Scotland over the next quarter century. This is all she can think at the moment. I mean, I don't know that it's even thinking. It's maybe an emotion she feels or just a general drive. But everything about Maggie at the moment says she wants to play. That's it. She wants to discover and explore and find things and imitate things and be there. It's absolutely everything to her, apart from the love of her mummy and her daddy and all the rest of us grown-ups. So that, for at least the next 7 years, I think, is going to be her main motivation. Certainly, I hope it carries on being one of her motivations once she's able to sort of do formal academic work as well. But it's very, very important in those first seven to 8 years. And actually, fortunately, when you think about it, it does match up with the four criteria of the National Planning Framework 4, because their first one, wonderfully, is sustainability. They want sustainable places. Now, this is a real move forward in terms of planning, because previously it's all been about productivity and building and, you know, traffic and things. Now it's about sustainability. And fortunately, play is also all about sustainability. As David Attenborough said, if children, when they're little, are playing out in nature, then they'll understand it and they'll love it and they'll want to make it the world a sustainable place. So play is about sustainable human beings creating sustainable places. And also livable places, the second criterion, because that's safe, pleasant, easily accessed places for communities where communities can flourish. And of course, for a community to flourish, I think we really understand, we really have to get back to children being part of that community. in many ways, planning has written children, little children particularly, out of our communities for a long time. You just don't see them out, except occasionally with mums and dads or in pushchairs. If we can get children playing in their local school grounds, their local nursery where people can see them, but also around their own homes, it really will make communities much more livable and much more human. As to the World Economic Forum, we also know that play will help with productivity, because we know that all the things Maggie uses through play are the things she really, really needs in order to be a productive member of the workforce in the future. All the stuff that comes naturally to us if we get the opportunity to play and are cared for when we're little. And finally, their fourth criterion of distinctive places, well, yeah, I think that's a really nice one, because it's so, Scotland's got so much that's distinctive. Every community's got its own special distinctive background. And if little children are playing out in them, it'll make them even more distinctive and make us a really distinctive country in the UK. So we are fortunate in having two terrific documents which will back up Maggie's dream of play. That lovely quotation from Realising the Ambition that plays an intrinsic part of human nature and experience, and Scotland's play strategy. Play is a life-enhancing daily experience. So we've got loads of lovely guidance, but unfortunately, that's all it is at the moment. It's guidance. It's non-statutory. And what I have learned, and anybody else involved in this stuff, if you want something done, you really need it to be statutory. And one of the big things about the draft national planning framework is when it's gone through law, it will become part of statutory requirements on the national and local authorities. So we really need this thing to go as statutory as we can. And Maggie understands this now. She actually would like it also to be not just that play is statutory, but as often as possible outdoors. I know she's begging to get out from under that jacket and into the undergrowth. You can see her looking at, desperate. Won't be long now, darling. So this is something we have to thank Play Scotland for, and other organisations like A Place in Childhood. Every local authority has got a local development plan. And now, since 2019, as part of it, it has to do play sufficiency assessment, PSA. Right, carry on, Maggie, keep explaining. The PSA goes into an evidence report, which goes into the local development plan. I've put all the acronyms down at the bottom because there gets to be rather a lot of them in any sort of government bureaucratic rubbish. The PSA goes into an evidence report, that goes into the local development plan, and there is statutory duty on the local authority to take full account of that evidence report. So that play sufficiency assessment could make all sorts of access to play statutory. Carrying on, sorry, let me go into the next one. So it's this evidence. We need to think, why aren't children getting enough play in Scotland, and why isn't the play good enough yet? And as Maggie points out, she likes this book, she likes the picture on the front. As Maggie points out, we've got a book that now gives us some information on that, and the people who wrote the first few chapters are here. Suzanne's here, she wrote the chapter on Scotland's culture, and that we have this culture that sees play as somehow frivolous, nowhere near as important as education is a really significant bit. Then Marguerite's here, her chapter gives us all the reasons why play isn't frivolous and an up-to-date background on what's happening in play in Scotland. I don't know whether Pam's here, but of course what she points out is this business that formal education, you don't need to start it as early as we do, and in fact we can do damage by doing so. And then the fourth chapter brings the whole business of children into the equation. As we're going to get the UNCRC hopefully into Scots law by the end of the year, Kathy McCulloch's chapter, and Kathy's here, is all about making sure that the voices of children and young people are heard. And that's what the play sufficiency assessments are supposed to be about. Children know about play, so they have to inform the play sufficiency assessments. And of course they can, even little children can, as Ashley Robertson, who's also here from Ravenswood Primary School in North Lanark, as she pointed out in blog when they were talking about Article 31 last year, and they said, no, we want to know, we want people to know how important play is to us, and they made it very, very clear to their local community in no uncertain way. So the younger, even the young children, even the nursery children, can help to inform what we get going on. We've never valued play the way we value education. We need to help the local authority policymakers recognise the importance of it for the under sevens. And this NPF4 and the play sufficiency assessments have now vehicles to provide that help. So let's draw on the expertise of the experts on play. Maggie, upwards. There are some great ideas on how we can work with them on this presentation, and shortly you'll find out how you can access that. And that's at the bottom of Maggie's call to action. Right. We need evidence of young children's need for play in their local area. Your children can provide it. Is there sufficient access and provision for active social outdoor play within their school grounds and in their local neighbourhood? And how could it be better? So let's consult the children and then respond to the two push consultations. The first one is for the play sufficiency assessments, and the second one is the NPF4. But we can do them both with the same lot of evidence that we've gathered from the children. And Play Scotland's made that easy. You contact them immediately after you've heard this or tomorrow morning on info@playscotland.org. They'll send you two presents. One of them is an information pack all about how to do it, and it'll give you the links to things like Jenny Wood's presentation about mapping and anything else that you might need. And the second one is a pro forma on which you fill in what you found out, all about who you are and where you are and what you found out. And then all you have to do is send that pro forma back to Play Scotland, and they will kindly send it on for you to the two consultations. So it cuts out an awful lot, honestly, it cuts out an awful lot of the messing, because I've done consultations for government before and it's hateful. So please, they've made it as easy as humanly possible. So please, please do it. And that is, there's a deadline. The consultation closes on the last day of March. So that's why we've got to get on with it as quickly as we can. Got a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, is it? And then it's going to be closed. So please help. If you'd like to get hold of this PowerPoint, we thought maybe you might have to go back to school and explain this thing. If you think this PowerPoint would help you, we've stuck it on the Upstart website. So it's there at www.upstart.scot. There's the Play is the Way section on there. And if you just look on the drop-down menu, you'll find NPF4 and you can download this PowerPoint. And that's me, just about finished. Whew. Doing that. I hope it's been reasonably intelligible. If it's not, there is a blog by Maggie that's available on the again on the website under the blog. So I'm now, all being well, going to pass over to Marguerite Hunter Blair from Play Scotland, and she'll tell you all the bits I've missed out. Thank you, Marguerite.
Okay, thanks, Sue. That was fantastic, and I think you did what you said you were going to do on the tin, and you made it very simple. It's not a complicated thing to do, but I would imagine most people, if you said to them the word planning, they would start to glaze over before you got beyond that one word. I'm going to talk about planning. That would be the end of the conversation. For us at Play Scotland, planning has everything to do with play. And if we get planning right, so that children can play in and around near their homes, on their way to school, in the school estate, if they can play in the local community, and if they can get access to the public realm, then the play opportunities they'll have will be massive and suitable. They'll be sufficient. And this is what we're really interested in, is getting enough play opportunities for children and young people, and that they're good enough. The quality is there as well. So now we've got a unique opportunity in Scotland over the next few weeks to respond to 2 pieces of consultations. One is actually quite straightforward. It's the play sufficiency consultation. That's about the regulations and guidance for the new law being implemented on play sufficiency. And just coincidentally, we've got this fantastic national framework to do with everything to do with planning. And some really, really good friends we've got in Scottish Government, in the architect side and the planning side, have managed to really draw out the connection between play sufficiency and this big national planning framework. So what we've tried to do in Play Scotland is make this really accessible to people like yourselves that work with children and young people, so that you could have a go at consulting with them about these 2 incredibly important pieces of legislation that will not just impact on their lives, but on their children's lives and their grandchildren's lives. So no pressure, but it really is possibly the most important consultation piece of work you might do this year, if ever. And I'm now going to hand on to Sherry Morgan, my colleague, who is going to explain how simple this is to do and how to get access to the simple sheets that Sue was talking about. So I'm handing over to Sherry.
And while people are chatting here, I've just received the InfoAt email. Zoe, thank you, your email. So I'll be sending those packs out to you. And one is just a straightforward step. It takes you through the process of how we suggest the best way is to consult with the children and young people that you work with. Now we're suggesting a sort of a framework. So we have prompts for questions. So the first thing we ask you to do is like a mapping exercise with children, maybe take them a walk around their community so they can really think about their community in a real way, and it's not an abstract concept if you have the chance to do that. And then we've given you some question prompts. Some of these questions are related to the place sufficiency assessments, and some are related to the national planning framework. But we'll worry about which ones are which. You don't worry about that. You just go through the prompts and actually use your own words, because obviously we've used words. You might have better words to use with the children and young people that you work with, and go through that. And the pro forma takes you through what you need to submit for each one, but in a really step-by-step way, so that you just sort of would, if you do make a map with your children and young people, there's a sheet for you to put the map on, and then the responses to each of the questions. It might be that children are particularly concerned about climate change. It might be that they're concerned about traffic. We want to hear what it is that is the concern for the children, and we'll put that together. You'll put that together in the pro forma, and then we'll split the pro forma into the 2 responses, because it's actually 2 different places and 2 different companies that are actually analysing this information. On the front of it, there is a data sheet, a Scottish Government data sheet. So that asks for information about your organisation and whether or not you want your response to be published. So that's that'll be for both consultations. That's just important for data gathering. We're not really expecting to have any identifiable information in the data you're collecting itself, because that's about children's views. So the data protection will be sort of to do with the first sheet, to do with your group and who you are and where your children are based. It is important that we know where we're getting responses from, because we would like to see a spread of responses from rural, remote, urban areas. So we're hoping to get as many voices as possible. We are actually contacting groups directly that we know work in certain areas to try and get those responses back. But yeah, do get in touch, and we're happy. The facilitation pack has got links on it to particular films that we found helpful. And I would say, like Sue did, I had to watch the Scottish Government film 3 times before I really got it. But after I did, I really understood it. And it's not that it's unclear, it's just that it's quite a big thing, and it's quite tricky to understand how they've sort of framed this document, because it's a document about the whole of Scotland. So it is interesting, if you want to do that whole piece, to look at the video about the NPF4 from the Scottish Government. But don't be surprised if it takes you a bit of time for it to be absorbed, because it did take me that. So but we'll send those links are in the facilitator's guide, so you can just click on them, and it's a voiceover presentation. Also, A Place in Childhood, they've done a presentation on how to engage with children and young people, which is available too. So these are all just on Vimeo, and you can just see them. You just click on them and see, they're free to view. All right. But if anybody has any questions, or they just want a quick chat, I'm absolutely happy to do that too, and to speak people directly through the process.
Thank you. Thanks, Cherie. I wanted to ask a couple of questions of you and Marguerite. One was, we can also, because with early level, one of the big issues for primary 1-2 children is they don't usually get access to the outdoors. The access within schools is they just don't get the chance to be out and about as much as they should be for their age group. So can we include school grounds?
Yes. Yeah, I'll let Sherry answer.
Yeah. So it is fine to include school grounds.
I think any comment that comes from children is valuable. People can also respond, as well as doing the facilitated consultation with children and young people. I would encourage people to maybe respond on the online government consultations as well, because we can provide the links to both of those are in the facilitator's pack. And you might not want to trek through the whole of all of the questions, but it is worth having a look. I would say the place efficiency assessment one is easier to do, but it's an online questionnaire, and so as grown-ups we can do that, and we can then put on what our perceptions are, as well as then having this children and young people response as well. That was the piece I forgot to say.
Can I ask then, Sherry, do you want us to send, I'll do one as a grown-up and I'll do one on behalf of Upstart, but do you want us to send copies of that to you as well? Would that help you at all?
The online one just goes is one of those ones, so that you just you click through it on the Scottish Government website.
Actually, I have learned from doing other consultations, I don't have to do their flipping pro forma, which is far too complicated.
Yes, there is an opportunity.
You can just write your own little letter to them.
Yes.
And that's in fact what I've decided to do now, because quite honestly, the questions they ask aren't the questions I want to answer. That's
true. There is an email address on the NPF. There's an email address on both of them. So if you could just put a narrative response. But the online questionnaire is one of those where you just click through the questions and they save your data as you're doing it. So it depends on what way you do it. We're happy to see any responses. We'd have to be careful that we weren't submitting things twice. So if you do give us something that you've already submitted, do let us know so we don't put it in again.
Okay, but the main ones you want to see are the ones coming in from the schools.
Yeah.
And one last question, and this is really in fact, I know the answer, but just to make sure people know, we've specially done this because we want to get early years children responding, but actually any age group within the school would be very, very welcome to do the consultation as well, wouldn't they?
I mean, I think the schools have really embraced it, because some of the teachers and staff have been on some of the seminars that we've been running. And I think people understand that this is a historic moment for us in Scotland. You know, it's the first time we've had a law for play, and we've now got a chance to influence and shape that law. So it is massively important. And I would urge people to put down everything and anything you have an issue about, because we know the other side of the coin. We're very familiar with a lot of the officials, and they are desperate. They can't wait to hear what children and young people say. They're actually really excited. There's an official called Kwan Lowe that we've been working with, and she's so excited. And she's on to us on a regular basis. How many people have been in touch? You know, do you think the children are going to get responded? So they can't wait to hear what children and young people have to say. And hopefully as adults, we'll be able to say something useful as well. But I think our role at the moment is to make sure the children's voice is heard. And it's the first time they've had a chance to do this. So it's really, really important.
Well, that's a brilliant cue for bringing in two other people, Kathy McCulloch and Ashley Robertson, because Kathy, if she's there and would like to put herself on video and unmute and everything, can talk about the position, the whole business of children's voice, and particularly in early years. Hello, Kathy.
Hello.
Hello. Did you know about all this stuff?
No, not. I knew it was kind of on the periphery, but no, not the detail that we've gone through tonight.
So very exciting possibilities for getting children really informing government policy.
Yeah, and combined with the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, I mean, that's where the power lies with it, because it's not negotiable any longer. We have to make decisions in children's best interest, and they have a right to play. So we will soon have that built into legislation. And this seems to be something that is really going to strengthen that and give more attention to the whole issue of play across government. So it's exciting times.
Absolutely wonderful that the two things, the right to play and the UNCRC, coming together at the same time. It's terrific, isn't it?
Yeah, and we are hopeful. I think the Scottish Government, although they got a bit of a knockback from the Supreme Court, they are working hard to bring that forward to the Scottish Parliament again. Marguerite's got her hand up.
Oh, yes, Marguerite.
I was just going to say, it's really important what Kathy is saying, but in the Planning Act of 2019, there's also a duty on children's participation. So we don't need to wait for UNCRC. I think UNCRC is the umbrella we're all desperately waiting for and can't wait to have. But actually in the Act as well, there is a duty on participation. So fortunately, we don't need to wait for the UNCRC, but I would imagine that it's the UNCRC stick that we'll possibly need to use in future if we think the children's views have not been taken sufficient account of, or if response to children's views has not been deemed to be reasonable enough. So I think we've got two pieces of legislation at last now that really underpin this. So this is why it is historic, you know, and it's coming at it from two different children's rights perspectives. But without the duty and participation in planning, it was implicit, and the minister eventually agreed that he was getting bombarded with lots of children's organisations, not just us, that explicit is the way to go. And so we're very fortunate now to have these two. I know it's possibly not politically correct to talk about them as sticks, but we do have two sticks now, you know.
Well, let's hope we get lots more sticks, because there's lots more ways it could be made explicit as people get the hang of children have got a right to be expressing their opinions about stuff. So we can come now, all being well, to Ashley, because Ashley was hoping to be able to actually do some of the activities we're suggesting and be able to report back. But of course, COVID got in the way, and she's been self-isolating for a whole week. But you are still, nevertheless, you've been planning about it and talking about it. Can you give us an update on what this is at your school, Ravenswood, in North Lanarkshire?
I can. So just to give you a wee bit of background, myself and my stage partner have been on our play journey for 5 years now. And when Sue told me that, you know, it was going to be a reality that we would have some statutory play planning in place, we were so excited and could not wait to get started. And we've started actually, as Cherry had said, with taking the children out on a walk and getting them to see, you know, what opportunities really lie on our doorstep. And we are lucky enough to have a wooded area relatively close by to our school that we use regularly for our outdoor play. And the children are very familiar with this route. So using this knowledge, they've created their own maps of this route from the school to the wooded area. And they were able to easily identify play spaces that currently exist and are maybe not particularly livable or distinctive, and play places that we use, and we're happy with those. Our next step though is to compare and contrast. Look at the places that we do use for play and how is that different to the places we've identified that maybe aren't very playful at the minute and maybe aren't particularly livable for us. The children showed a great interest in the maps, and naturally through play they decided to create their own loose parts map. And this was a really easy way of getting the younger children, you know, who are 4 and 5, to be able to kind of widen their thinking, if you like. So we had 3D maps on the go, and they decided to extend it not just to our small kind of area in Cumbernauld, but to the whole of Scotland. And the children were using different loose parts as greenery, trees, areas of water, wildlife to the map. I mean, and they're 4 and 5, and already they have got such a clear idea on what would make a livable, sustainable, distinctive place in Scotland. You know, and if we let them take the lead in this, then by 2045, Scotland is going to be a great place to live, because they have such a clear idea. Although they are young, they've got a really clear idea about what's going to make a playful space. You know, who are we to say what's going to make a playful space? Is people who are a lot older. And if I think about my primary ones, you know, they'll be around the kind of 28 mark come 2045. So it's their future. It's not ours, it's theirs. And this is the easiest way for us to start the communication about it. Following on from that, I know that Sue has mentioned that the children at Ravenswood are quite vocal and are very aware of their rights, and they like to go out into the community with their megaphones. And we are planning on sharing our thoughts with the local community, with our parents and with our MSP. But as Sue said, this is all kind of in the pipeline at the minute, thank you to COVID. However, we have had a good start. Also, I think it may have been Sherry who had said about the engagement pack from Play Scotland. They have got great questions in the pack that you can use to help stimulate your discussion with the children. And we've kind of drip feeding a few of those questions in throughout the week. There are quite a few of them, but they're really interesting questions, and they're catered really well for the younger children, just to help stimulate the discussion. So we'll be definitely making use of those. You find them in the engagement pack. I know that you had said, Sue, as well, that, you know, it's not just the younger children, it can be a whole school sort of event. So we have a PowerPoint that's ready to go and be distributed to all staff members so that we can get the thoughts from primary 1 all the way to primary 7. For our older children, we're going to try and attempt to link it to the global goals. And that actually marries in very well. And we're going to start the discussion with looking at an image of Scotland, thinking about what we can pick out and how we would change that to make it an even better place in 2045. So fingers crossed, we're hopeful that we'll have some information, thoughts and ideas from our primary 1s to our primary 7s.
Brilliant. Right. I wonder, can I bring in Suzanne if she's around? Because we're hoping this is the beginning of some sort of culture change. What do you think? It's
One hopes. We've been trying to work on culture change for a while. And so I hope this really adds to it and brings a new level of energy and vision and a new angle to come to these questions. And as we were preparing for tonight, I pulled out a copy of Play is the Way, my copy. And I just went back to what I wrote in that chapter, because I wrote about culture change. And I just thought I would read out one paragraph, which again helps us to think about this. I said, I make this observation. Wait a minute, start here. Our early starting age in Scotland is not merely unconscious history, much as it picks up from earlier decisions about schooling before the 1872 Education Act. I think that history is not unconscious, but that we are proud of it. I make this observation about self-identity because I personally believe it to be one of the main reasons that Upstart has found it difficult to make the rapid headway that was predicted for establishing a kindergarten stage. The vision for play-based learning up to the age of 7 challenges more than Scotland's education structure. It challenges Scotland's sense of itself. When you are proud of your cultural heritage of offering universal academic learning from an early age, How can you see yourself reflected in the converse image of play-based with a delayed start? So I guess I just want to say something really simple tonight. If we think of this in terms of culture change, not just a bureaucratic filling in confusing forms. If we think about who does Scotland, what is Scottish self-identity, who decides that, who gets a say in that? And if we think about cultural values and how this new planning framework fits into that, I think it gives it a kind of a depth and an exciting quality that people might miss if they think that it's just forms. And so I think that Upstart has been about culture change. I know Sue didn't think that when she started. When Sue and Kate started this, they thought it was education change. I think it's culture change. And for all that sometimes that can feel a wee bit daunting, I also think it's really, really exciting to think about what kind of country do we want Scotland to be? If I can say something uncomfortable, that's what Ukraine is asking. Ukraine is asking what kind of country do they want to be? And they're paying terrible prices. And they are also asking what kind of Europe do we want to be? And of course, Britain's relation to Europe is now terribly complex. We all know that. But if we just take that as an inspiration, what kind of Scotland do we want to be and who gets to decide that? And the idea that our culture could be based in children's play, I think is a really, really heartening one. If people understand how children develop, why outdoor play matters, why play matters rather than sitting in desks and obeying carpet rules, as I heard it recently described, that's quite a vision for a country when it's based in children's needs. And that's how I see this new planning framework, as thinking about culture change and what kind of Scotland do we want to be, both now and its relation to the future.
I saw a hand go up on Kate's little screen bit there. Was that Kate saying country?
No, it was
Hello?
a clap.
It was a clap. Oh, sorry, that was a clap, Suzanne. And I totally agree. And I think one of the great opportunities with this is if we can get masses of children, particularly little children, and I was trying to make that point with my PowerPoint, that it is an absolute total drive for the first 7 or 8 years, before all the sort of grown-up stuff starts kicking in. It's absolutely what drives them in their whole being. If we can help get that recognition out through absolutely bombarding local authorities with children's views, there's a terrific PR opportunity here to try and get newspapers and so on interested. So I'd be very, very pleased to hear if there's anyone out there in a nursery that's joined us this evening that thinks that they would be able to get going on this.
Sue,
anyone?
Sue, can I just offer one other thing that speaks to that? Tonight, at the same time that we are here, there's a nursery in Scotland, Lullaby Lane, some of you will know it, that is at an awards ceremony for the small to medium enterprise of the year award. And Rona Mackay spoke to the importance of that in the Scottish Parliament yesterday. And so because it's a business and because Lullaby Lane is it's not a council nursery, but is a private nursery, is a partner provider, I think it's really, really exciting that they're up for an award tonight while we are here. It's a national award and it's based in arguments about attachment and play. So part of what Rona talked about in the Parliament yesterday was the amount of time that children at Lullaby Lane spend outside. So I'm just trying to give a inspiring example of what else is happening tonight and what is possible, and that all of that is based in and culture change. And if we see it as culture change, then I think it makes more sense to us what we're trying to do and what some of the challenges might be. Very often I'm asked to provide training about the science of attachment or the science of connection. I do that because people are happy to have me in to train them in science. But I think that what I'm really doing is culture change. I don't think most people would pay me to do culture change. But if it doesn't lead, so I call it something else. But if it doesn't actually lead to culture change, then it won't be effective anyway. So thinking about this word culture, what is unconscious within it, and how culture is driven, and who we are as a Scottish culture and who we want to be, I just think helps us understand more about what some of our challenges and our opportunities are.
Yeah, well, I mean, as Marguerite and Kathy have made clear this evening, there is some movement from the top down in terms of taking on the UNCRC and now this whole place efficiency assessment stuff. So there is some movement there. What we really need now is the movement from the bottom upwards, the kids, the little ones, and the people who care for them. So I'm just wondering, Kate, have we heard anything through the chat? Anybody from a nursery that would be interested in getting involved? I'm really, really desperate that nurseries get involved in this.
No, the chat's full of other stuff.
Lots of people saying they'd love to be involved by the look at it.
Yeah. People have sent in for the packs.
And hoping to send for the packs. Well, it would be terrific if people could get really little children going around. I mean, Ashley, you've done this thing, or your friends of, your colleagues who weren't in isolation have been doing it. I wondered about the business of photographs, because one of the things little kids can do, and they really are good at, is taking a camera and photographing the things they love, and then talking about them. Would that be something you could do as part of the?
Absolutely, and I think that's something that we've done in the past as well, and taking the iPads out, and they're more than able to do that, and you create a visual map if you like as well. That might be particularly helpful for a nursery as well. A visual map would be a great way of doing it. That's a great idea, something I'll remember, and we'll put that into place as well.
So Jean has, Leanne has just put, I've sort of begun this. Was that Leanne? I couldn't see. It was someone in the chat. So Morningside Nursery wants to be involved. Wonderful. Great stuff. And somebody asked, I will, at the end of this session, somebody said they'd missed the beginning and didn't know how to go about it. At the end of this session, I'll put up the details at the end of my PowerPoint, so that you've got the address to write to and know a little bit about what's.
And Sherry said where you can download it from,
right,
on the chat.
On the chat.
And somebody started it. Who's that? Leanne.
Leanne.
Leanne
there?
Want to speak?
Hi. Yeah.
Hello, Leanne.
Hi, Sue. It's lovely to see you again. Yeah, so I think it's particularly difficult in my setting. I'm an equity and excellence lead, so we move around settings, but it's something that we have just about outdoor play and accessing the community. However, I wasn't aware of the Play Scotland pack, so that just sort of, for me, brings everything almost together a bit, because we've been exploring the local community using the mosaic approach, so using the iPad and getting the children to tell us. It's been part of our thinking for transition as well, so looking at all the different schools in the local community. In terms of taking it forward for a longer project, I am only in my current setting till August, and the children leave in June. So that's why I said I'm sort of taking it on, because it's been about outdoor play, using the community, but also about transition. So we've begun that using maps and looking at the local community, but it's only just begun, and I'm just off now with COVID.
Oh my goodness. One of the things that's cropped up was people pointing out some of them. I've been going to meetings about this, keep going to meetings about it. And somebody pointed out one of the most underused resources in many communities is bits of derelict land, bits of land that aren't used for anything else and are just sitting there. And I have to say that in the olden days, like when we old ladies talk about how we were always out playing, that was where you played. You found these little bits of space with bits of, dandelions and things growing on them, and you went and just played in there. And in fact, it's one of the things is to look for where would be good places that you could, kids would like to play. And I'm just wondering, I don't know whether Emily Cups happens to be here from Children's Wood. But in her book, The Dear Wild Space, another one of the postcards from Scotland, she actually gives a whole appendix at the back about how easy it is really to get your mitts on derelict land if it's not there, it's nobody else's. It actually, you can turn it into something that becomes a place that children can play. So that's another resource. I'll see if I can find a way to... If people are interested, I could maybe get her to do a blog or something like that.
Yeah, I loved during lockdown when all the children were out and about. I was especially excited by several boys who spent a lot of time sitting on roofs, flat roofs in the area. I live in South Morningside, just up from the school. And so both South Morningside School and nursery are keen to get involved. So I just loved the way that the children use the area when there was less traffic and they were out and about on their own in groups, just like what we'd done when we were children. We used to play beside garages in the tiniest piece of land with about a tree and a couple of trees width. And we played all sorts of creative games as secondary school pupils, really. And somebody, Marguerite says in Rotterdam, every vacant space is a play space. Good for Rotterdam. There's amazing.
This is what we want for the culture of Scotland, to be moving more in that direction. Well, we've had a fair bit of input. We're getting towards the end of our hour. Has anybody got any questions, or is anything, Kate, that we need to...
I think Marguerite should come back on because she's got more to say.
Yeah, right. Let's get Marguerite back on.
I don't want to over egg this, but I couldn't stress how important it is that people really get involved in this. And it's not the nicest time of the year. It's particularly wet here in the West. Maybe it's nice and sunny where you are, but I think if you've got the opportunity over the next couple of weeks, even if you've only got a small amount of time, it's worth it, and even if you spend more time working out what you're doing than you actually doing it, it's worth it. There is nothing you will do, even if you pick one question or one topic or one aspect that everybody seems to be really interested in, that's enough. You don't need to do the whole thing. Numbers do count. I think the government will be impressed if they get a big return from the children's sector. I think it matters. And even if we're all saying something similar, because when we said we will be doing a Play Scotland response, they do want to know how our response has been framed. So the board members that will be working on that, they want to know, they really want as many people to be involved in this as possible. And I can honestly say these officials are super excited. It's absolutely heartwarming to find this enthusiasm with people, particularly officials. When they came into they were given these pieces of work, they didn't even know what we were talking about, but they went and they found out and they became inspired, and they've read Tim Gill's book, and they've really got themselves into the right zone. So now we've got what we asked for. We can't not reply. They've now asked us the question we've been asking them to ask us, in my case, for 15 years. So we must reply, and it's not for people like me to make the answer up of what I think I know. It's for the children to tell us and for the adults to support them in that journey. So please, 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 it's the most important thing you're going to do in March, let me tell you. Get out and do it, please.
Thank you. Kate tweeted this morning that the 9th of March is a very significant day in Upstart. We had our big conference with Keeping Early Years Unique back about three years ago, I think it was, or 4. And last year, Upstart was debated in Parliament on this night. And Kate and I couldn't watch it live because we were doing the second book group. It's a very big day. So I'm hoping that this is another big 9th of March, because this is one thing that we could be doing. And in fact, already we know that tomorrow, all being well, the Ken Muir report on education will be released. So there's a bit of an opportunity there for a culture change too. And I've wangled my way onto a conference tomorrow by the Holyrood conference events, because they never, when they do education conferences, this one's supposed to be about the future of curriculum for excellence, they do education conferences, they never ask anybody from early years. So I've now learned you send them an email saying, why have you not invited anybody from early years? And they are so embarrassed, they invite you. So I'm going on tomorrow to tell them about it, and I hope I'll get an opportunity to mention this whole business of play becoming something that local authorities are going to embrace. Shirley Ann Somerville in Parliament this evening said we are going to open a national conversation again about education in Scotland, as we did before the publication of Curriculum for Excellence. So it's all up for grabs, folk, at the moment. And the more we do, the more we can be visible by doing something like this, the more they're going to listen. And maybe this is the beginning of the breakthrough. We're nearly at 8 o'clock. Honestly, I can't believe the hour's gone so fast. Please go to info@playscotland.org. And it's just playscotland.org. I always want to put something else on the end, but it's not, there's nothing on the end. info@playscotland.org. Ask for the packs, and COVID permitting, you poor souls, it must be awful at the moment. Everybody's so tired. But please, if you can manage to summon some energy, please go for it. And thank you, everybody that's been here tonight. Hopefully we'll get the film done as quickly as possible so that more people can benefit from it. I'm just seeing all these people saying they're going to do it. It's wonderful. Thank you, everybody. I will put the details up so that you can copy it down if you need to. If that's all right, everybody, and nobody's got anything else to ask, can I thank all our guests, all our speakers, and everybody that's been here, and can I wish you all the best of luck and loads of fun in doing loads of place efficiency assessments all over Scotland. Please tell your friends, pass it on, download our PowerPoint, tell them. Thank you and good night.